Hello. Welcome to Reality Stories, where stories do comes alive. Please subscribe and share with friends. Now relax and enjoy the story. The afternoon sun was setting over Lagos, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. The city buzzed as usual. Cars honking, traders shouting, buses packed with restless passengers. In the middle of it all, inside a tall glass office building, Daniel King sat hunched over his desk, scrolling through endless spreadsheets. Daniel was 32, tall, with a calm face that sometimes looked too serious for his age. He had always been the kind of man who lived by logic, numbers, order, predictability. Life to him was like a chessboard. If you planned right, nothing could surprise you. But that day, life surprised him. As he stretched and leaned back, he noticed a plain white envelope lie on the floor near his office door. Strange. He hadn't heard anyone knock, and his secretary usually announced visitors. He bent down and picked it up. The envelope had no stamp, no handwriting on the outside. Just blank. He frowned. Who drops a letter without a name? He muttered. Curiosity nudged him. He tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly in half. He opened it and read aloud, softly. Come to the old railway station at midnight. What you'll hear will change your life forever. His eyebrows shot up. He read it again, slower this time, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less dramatic. Old railway station? Midnight, he whispered. What nonsense is this? He dropped the paper on the desk, shaking his head. He wasn't the kind of man who followed strange midnight invitations. He had watched enough African thrillers to know how those stories ended. But as he tried to continue working, his eyes kept drifting back to the note. His mind wouldn't settle. Who slipped it under my door? Why me? And what could possibly change my life forever? The clock ticked. His office grew quieter as other workers packed up for the day. He was left alone with the sound of humming air conditioning and his restless thoughts. Finally, around 7 p.m., his best friend Mark called. Got you still at the office? Mark's voice boomed through the phone. Yeah, Daniel sighed. Just finishing some things. You sound disturbed. What happened? Daniel hesitated, then told him about the letter. There was silence on the line for a few seconds before Mark laughed. Brothers, I beg ignore that thing. It's either a prank or a scam. Midnight for railway station? Nah, so ritual people day start story, oh. Daniel chuckled, but still felt unsettled. That's what I thought. But the way it was delivered, no handwriting, no explanation. Just straight to the point. Then all the more reason to stay home, Mark advised. Don't carry yourself, go find trouble. Just tear the letter and forget it. Daniel promised he would. But after he hung up, he didn't tear it. Instead, he folded it back carefully and slipped it into his pocket. By 11:15 p.m., Daniel found himself driving through half-empty streets, heading toward the old railway station that had been abandoned for years. His heart argued with his head. This is madness, he muttered. Turn back. But his hands kept the wheel steady. Curiosity was stronger than fear. Something deep inside whispered, whatever waits there, it's meant for you. The old railway station sat at the edge of the city like a forgotten ghost. Rusted trains lined the tracks, their metal shells eaten by time. The roof of the main hall sagged in places, and weeds crawled through cracks in the concrete. Daniel parked his car a little distance away, cut the engine, and listened. The night air was still, except for crickets and the distant barking of stray dogs. He pulled the letter from his pocket, one last time inside. This is foolish, he whispered, but he stepped out anyway. As he approached the entrance, he noticed faint movement inside. A shadow flickered past the broken window. His pulse quickened. Inside, dim light came from a single lantern placed on the floor. Around it stood 4 people. Daniel froze for a moment, studying them. They looked just as confused as he felt. The first was Sarah White, a young woman in her late 20s with sharp eyes and a confident stance. She wore a fitted jacket over jeans, her arms crossed as if daring anyone to mess with her. The second was Michael Roberts, tall and broad-shouldered, with the swagger of someone used to commanding attention. He looked impatient, glancing at his watch every few seconds. Next was Grace Miller, softer in demeanor, her curly hair tied back. She seemed nervous, clutching her handbag tightly. Her eyes darted around like she was ready to run at any moment. And finally, Richard Brown, older than the rest, maybe 40, dressed too formally for the occasion. His expression was calm, almost smug, as though he already knew more than he should. They all turned when Daniel entered. Another one? Michael scoffed. How many are we expecting at this midnight circus? Daniel raised his hands, slightly. Relax. I got a letter. Same as you, I guess. Grace stepped closer, her voice trembling. You're said to come here at midnight? Yes, Dan replied. Did all of you? Yes, Sarah cut in sharply. We all got the same message, and we all want answers. They stared at each other in awkward silence, none trusting the other. Just then, footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate, heavy. A man in a long black hooded cloak appeared from shadows. His face was hidden, his hands gloved. He stepped into the circle of lantern light and spoke, his voice deep and steady. Good. You all came. Grace gasped and backed up. Who are you? The hooded man ignored the question. He looked at each of them slowly, as if measuring their worth. You wonder why you're here, he said. You wonder who I am. But the real question is not who I am, it's who you are. Richard chuckled dryly. We know who we are, my friend. What we don't know is why you dragged us into this drama. The man tilted his head. You are all connected, though none of you truly realize it. And tonight the truth begins. Daniel frowned. Connected how? The man reached into his cloak and pulled out a small leather folder. He opened it, revealing faded photographs, black and white pictures of people standing together. They looked old, maybe from the 1980s. The strangers leaned in, squinting at the images. To their shock, each recognized someone. That's my mother, Sarah whispered, pointing. My father, Daniel muttered, stunned. Michael's face tightened. That's impossible. Yes, the hooded man said slowly. Your parents were not who you thought they were. They were part of something larger, something secret. Grace clutched her chest. Why us? Why now? The man lowered the photographs and looked at them with grave intensity. Because the secrets they carry have finally caught up with you. A tense silence fell. The air seemed heavier, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Daniel's mind raced. His father had died when he was young. He remembered him only vaguely. Gentle, quiet, never involved in anything suspicious. How could this man claim otherwise? Michael stepped forward, fists clenched. Enough riddles. Say what you came to say, or I'll walk out. The hooded man's lips curved in a cold smile. You won't walk out, Michael. None of you will until the truth is revealed. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Somewhere in the shadows, a train creaked as metal shifted. It sounded like a groan from the past, an omen, and in that abandoned station, under the dim glow of the lantern, 5 strangers stood at the edge of revelation that would turn their lives upside down. The lantern flame flickered, stretching their shadows across the cracked walls of the railway station. The hooded man stood silently for a moment, as if savoring their confusion. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, he spread the photographs across a wooden crate. The faded pictures trembled in the breeze. Look closely, he said, his voice echoing. These faces belong to the people you thought you knew best. Your parents. Daniel stepped closer, his heart racing. His eyes locked on a familiar face in one of the photographs. A man with sharp eyes, standing in a circle with others, holding a small emblem. That's my father, Daniel whispered. His throat tightened. But what is he doing here? Who are these people with him? Sarah leaned forward, squinting. Her hand trembled as she pointed to a woman in another picture. That's my mother. She never told me anything about this. What were they part of? Grace pressed her palm to her mouth, shaking her head. This doesn't make sense. My parents were church people. They hated secret societies. There must be some mistake. The hooded man's deep voice cut through her panic. It is no mistake. Your parents belong to society called the Circle of Five. For decades, they controlled businesses, politics, and even justice. But with great power came terrible secrets. Michael snorted bitterly, tried to mask his unease. And you expect us to believe our parents were in some underground cult running the city like gods? My father was a soldier. He fought for this country, not some secret club. The hooded man turned slowly to him. And yet, Michael, he wore their emblem. From his cloak, he pulled out a small metallic symbol, a circle carved around a dagger. It gleamed faintly in the lantern light. He placed it beside the photos. Your fathers and mothers swore oaths to protect the circle's secrets with their lives. But they also hid treasures, shares, properties, offshore accounts, fortunes tied to blood. And now, each of you sits at the crossroads of that legacy. The words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel's fist clenched. Why are you telling us this now? The hooded man lowered his head. Because what they started is not finished, and the sins they buried will rise through you, their children, unless... Suddenly, the sound of gunfire shattered the night. Bang! Bang! The hooded man jerked backward. His body convulsed, and he collapsed beside the lantern, blood spreading across his cloak. The photographs scattered in the wind. Sarah screamed, "Oh my God!" Grace stumbled back, trembling violently. Who fired? Michael's eyes darted around the darkness. Fists raised like he was ready to fight shadows. "Show yourself," he shouted into the emptiness. "Cowards!" Daniel dropped to his knees beside the hooded man, pressing his hands to the man's chest. But the blood kept pouring. The man's mouth twitched, trying to form words. Daniel leaned closer. What were you trying to say?" The man's lips barely moved. "Trust no one." His eyes glazed over. His body went limp. Daniel's hands shook as he pulled back, his palms red with blood. "He's gone," he whispered. Richard, who had been strangely silent, finally spoke, his tone disturbingly calm. "We need to think fast. Someone knows we're here. If we don't move, we're next." Michael's face twisted with rage. "Who shot him? Did one of you bring a gun?" "Don't be ridiculous," Sarah snapped. Her voice cracked with fear, but carried fire. "We were all standing here. The shots came from outside." Grace hugged herself tightly. "This is a trap. This whole thing, it was planned. We were brought here to be exposed or killed." The wind howled through broken windows, and the night seemed darker than before. The five of them stood around the dead man's body, fear pulling them apart even as fate bound them together. The silence after the gunshots was suffocating. Every creak of the old building sounded like another shot waiting to happen. The group huddled around the corpse, their eyes darting toward the shadows, waiting for whoever fired to step forward. But no one came. Finally, Richard broke the silence, his voice low but firm. "We cannot call the police." Grace spun toward him, horrified. "What do you mean we can't call the police? A man has just been murdered." "Think, Grace," Richard replied coldly. "What story will we tell them? That a hooded stranger summoned us here at midnight to reveal our parents' dark past, then got shot in front of us? They will laugh first, then arrest us all." Sarah clenched her fists. "He's right. It looks too suspicious. 5 of us in a deserted station, 1 man dead, no witnesses. We'll be the prime suspects." Michael paced like a caged lion, running his hands through his hair. "So what then? We just leave him here? Let the police find the body and trace it back to us?" Daniel stood slowly, his jaw tight. He still felt the man's blood sticky on his hands. "No. If we leave him here, they'll find clues. Footprints, fingerprints, cameras, maybe. They'll know we were here." Grace's voice shook as she whispered, "So what are you saying?" Daniel looked at the others, his eyes hard. "We bury him. Tonight. And no one must know we were here." The words hung heavy in the air. Sarah exhaled sharply. "This is madness. Madness." Daniel shot back. "Look around. We're already in the middle of madness. Whoever killed him might still be watching us. If we don't protect ourselves, we'll be next." Michael stopped pacing, his jaw tightening. "He's right. As much as I hate it, Burying him is the only way to stay alive. At least for now. Grace shook her head violently. No, no, no. I can't do this. I can't carry a dead body, Daniel. This is not me. Richard stepped closer to her, his voice smooth, almost too calm. Then walk away, Grace. But remember, if you say one word to anyone, you sign our death warrants. Do you understand? Grace froze, her breath shallow. She looked from Richard's cold eyes to Daniel's trembling hands. She nodded reluctantly. Fine, but I don't like this. Sarah clapped her hands together once, as if sealing the matter. Enough talk. Let's do it quickly before someone else shows up. They searched the railway yard, their lantern throwing weak light across the ruins. At the far end, behind a row of rusted cargo containers, they found soft earth overgrown with weeds. Michael and Daniel dug with broken planks in their bare hands, sweat running down their faces despite the cool night. Sarah kept watch, her eyes darting into the shadows. Grace stood back, hugging herself, whispering prayers under her breath. Richard supervised, his face unreadable, as though burying a man in the dead of night was just another business deal. When the hole was finally deep enough, the group carried the hooded man's body. Grace turned away, unable to watch. Daniel closed his eyes as they lowered him into the earth. They covered the body quickly, breathing heavily, their hands and clothes stained with soil. When the ground was flat again, Richard brushed his hands together. That's it. It's done. But Daniel stepped forward, his face pale in the moonlight. No, not yet. We need a promise. From everyone. They all looked at him. No one must know what happened here tonight, he continued. No friends. No family. No police. This night never happened. Agreed? Michael's voice was rough. Agreed? Sarah nodded sharply. Agreed. Grace hesitated, tears in her eyes. But Richard cut her off, his tone like ice. Grace, if you talk, we all go down. Even you. Are you ready to rot in prison? Her shoulders slumped. Agreed, she whispered. Daniel looked around at them one last time. Then it settled. Whatever secrets our parents kept, tonight we add one more. His blood is on all our hands now. The five of them stood in a circle under the pale moonlight, silent, bound by a shared sin. But what none of them noticed was the way Richard's lips curled slightly, almost like a smile. In his eyes burned something colder than fear, calculation. Because while the others thought of survival, Richard was already plotting betrayal. Morning came too quickly. Daniel sat at his kitchen table, staring at his untouched cup of coffee. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the hooded man's lifeless face, the blood soaking his hands, the soil covering the body. He had scrubbed his hands until they were raw, but the memory clung to him like a curse. The silence in his apartment was broken by the sudden buzz of his phone. A message alert. He unlocked it, and his heart stopped. Breaking news. Unknown corpse found at railway station. The article showed a blurred photo of the station. Police swarming the area. The words hit him like a hammer. The body of an unidentified man was discovered buried behind an abandoned cargo container at the old railway station late last night. Police suspect foul play. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He whispered, No, this can't be. He quickly dialed Michael. Michael. Daniel's voice was sharp with panic. Have you seen the news? Michael's voice came through, heavy with anger. Yes, I've seen it. How the hell did they find the body, Daniel? We buried him deep. We made sure no one saw us. Which means, Daniel said grimly, someone told them. Michael was silent for a beat, then growled. One of us broke the pact. As if on cue, another call came through. Sarah. Daniel put her on speaker. Her voice was tight with fury. I hope you two are seeing the headlines. We agreed last night. No one must know we were there. Which one of you talked? Michael snapped. Don't start pointing fingers, Sarah. It could be you. Sarah scoffed bitterly. Me? If I wanted to expose anyone, I wouldn't risk my own neck. Use your brain. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Tension pounding. What about Grace? Or Richard? Almost as if they'd been summoned, Grace sent a voice note to their group chat. Her voice was shaky. "I swear to you all, I didn't say a word. Please believe me. I couldn't even sleep. I've been crying all night. Why would I betray us?" Richard followed with a text. This was inevitable. Secrets never stay buried. We need to meet. Tonight. My place. 8 p.m. Michael spat. "That man is too calm for my liking. It feels like he's enjoying this mess." Sarah agreed. "Exactly. Notice how he's not even angry? Just practical. Like he expected this." Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the hooded man's dying words. "Trust no one." He muttered under his breath. One of us already chose betrayal. The silence that followed was heavier than the gunshot from a night before. That evening, Daniel couldn't focus at work. His mind replayed the news article, the pact, the suspicion tearing their fragile unity apart. As he searched through his father's old briefcase at home, something he hadn't touched in years, he stumbled upon a thin folder wedged between dusty files. His hands trembled as he pulled it out. Inside was a photocopy of an old share certificate. His father's name, Edward King, was clearly printed, showing ownership of a massive number of shares in Crown Oil Ltd. Daniel whispered, "Crown Oil? But that company is worth billions today." His father had never spoken of it. The certificate looked authentic, though parts were faded. But at the bottom, stamped in red ink, was a cruel note. "Stolen, revoked." Daniel's stomach twisted. Stolen? By who? Before he could dig deeper, his phone buzzed. "Sarah," he answered quickly. "Sarah? Please tell me you have something." Her voice was low, urgent. "I think I do. I went through my mother's old diaries." "Daniel, it wasn't just about money. It was blood." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Sarah hesitated, then read aloud from a page. "Listen, the Circle of Five has agreed. Business profits cannot stand alone. Blood must seal the pact. Every decision, every fortune, is tied to a sacrifice. Tonight, the fifth life was taken. We swore never to speak of it." Daniel froze. "Blood sacrifice? You're saying they killed people?" Sarah's voice shook. "That's what it looks like. Our parents weren't just business partners. They were part of something darker, and I think the hooded man wanted us to know the truth before he died." Daniel sat down heavily, gripping the phone. "This changes everything. My father had shares in Crown Oil, but they were stolen. Now you're telling me there was blood sacrifice tied to society?" "Sarah, this is bigger than we thought." Sarah whispered, "And deadlier, because if our parents kept secrets that dangerous, then whoever killed the hooded man last night isn't done with us." There was a long silence between them. Finally, Daniel spoke softly. "Sarah, we need to trust each other. At least you and I. Because I don't trust Michael's temper, I don't trust Grace's fear, and I definitely don't trust Richard." Sarah's tone softened, almost weary. "I agree. From now on, we dig together. Secrets, diaries, shares, everything. Whatever truth is buried, we uncover it. Before it kills us." Daniel looked again at the faded certificate in his hand. The word stolen screaming at him. His father's legacy wasn't just fortune. It was theft, betrayal, and now murder. And for the first time, he realized the hooded man was right. Their lives would never be the same. The night air was thick, heavy with the smell of rain. Daniel sat in his car outside a small roadside bar on the outskirts of town. He wasn't there for drinks. He was following a hunch. Earlier that day, Sarah had whispered to him over the phone. Something about Michael doesn't sit right. He's too angry, too quick to blame others. Watch him. So Daniel followed, through the cracked windshield. He saw Michael step out of a black SUV, looking around cautiously before slipping into the back entrance of the bar. Daniel frowned. Michael wasn't the type to drink in secret. Something else was going on. Minutes later, another car pulled up. Richard, the older man, walked in with his usual confidence, not even checking if anyone was watching. Daniel's chest tightened. Michael and Richard? Together? He got out of his car, quietly, and approached the side of the building. A broken window near the back gave him a clear view inside. The bar was nearly empty, the dim light casting long shadows. Michael sat across from Richard at a corner table. Their voices were low, but the silence of the place carried their words. "I told you, Richard," Michael said, his voice sharp. "Daniel is too cautious. He'll drag us down. If we want the fortune, we can't include him or the others." Richard leaned back, sipping from a glass. "Calm yourself, Michael. Fortune isn't taken by anger. It's taken by patience. We have to move smart." Michael slammed his fist on the table. "Patience? We buried a man 2 nights ago. Now the police are sniffing around, and the press already has headlines. If we don't act fast, we'll lose everything our parents left behind." Richard's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "Exactly why we work together. You and I, Michael. Daniel is too naive, Sarah too stubborn, Grace too soft. But you have fire, and I have knowledge. Between us, we can claim the legacy." Michael leaned forward, lowering his voice. "And if they get in the way?" Richard smirked. "Then we do what our parents did. We bury the problem." Daniel's stomach dropped. His hands trembled against the wall. They weren't just greedy. They were dangerous. Just then his phone buzzed. A message from Grace. "Daniel, can we talk? I need to see you. Please." He quickly silenced it, praying they hadn't heard. Inside, Michael drained his glass. "Fine, but no more waiting. We strike first." Daniel backed away quietly, his heart racing. His suspicions were confirmed. Michael and Richard were plotting together. That night, he met Grace at a quiet cafe. She sat nervously, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she hadn't touched. "I don't know who to trust anymore," she whispered. Daniel studied her face. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were full of something else. Fear. "Grace," he said carefully, "I need to ask you something. Do you trust me?" Her lips trembled. "Yes, but—" "Daniel, I saw something last night. Michael, with Richard, I think." Daniel leaned forward. "I know. I saw it too. They're working together." Grace's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God! Then it's true. They're planning something." Daniel nodded grimly. "And that means we have to stay close. You, me, Sarah, we have to stick together. Otherwise, they'll destroy us." Grace looked down, conflicted. "I want to believe you. But Daniel, I'm scared. If they really are capable of burying problems the way Richard said, then none of us are safe." Daniel reached across the table and held her hand. "That's why we have to fight smarter. Promise me, Grace. Don't let fear push you into their hands." Her eyes met his, a storm of loyalty and doubt swirling inside them. Slowly, she nodded. "I promise." But deep inside, Daniel wondered, would fear or loyalty win the end? The following morning, Sarah woke to a shrill buzz on her phone. Half asleep, she reached for it. At first, she thought it was spam, but as she scrolled, her blood ran cold. An anonymous message. "You can't bury the truth. I see all of you." Attached was a grainy image. 5 figures standing in the railway station around the hooded man. Her heart stopped. She recognized herself. Daniel, Grace, Michael, Richard. It was them. She dialed Daniel immediately. "Daniel, we're finished. Someone has a photo of us that night. They just sent it to me." Daniel sat up in bed, panic surging. "What? How?" There were no cameras in that station. Then how do they have this picture? Sarah cried. "We're being watched. All of us." Before Daniel could answer, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from social media. His heart sank as he opened it. A video, posted on a popular gossip page, already racking up thousands of views. The shaky footage showed the 5 of them in the railway station. The hooded man's voice was faint but clear. "You are all connected, and tonight, the truth begins." The clip ended abruptly, but it was enough. The caption screamed, "The children of the circle, heirs of betrayal? Secret midnight meeting exposed." Within minutes, comments flooded. See big men, children plotting evil things. Blood money society continues with the next generation. So this is why the country is suffering. See what our leaders do in secret. Daniel's head spun. The entire city was buzzing with rumors, and they were at the center of it. He rushed to meet Sarah and Grace at Sarah's apartment. Both women looked shaken. "This is bad," Sarah said, pacing. "The whole country thinks we're some cursed heirs of a secret cult. Even if we tell the truth, no one will believe us." Grace whispered, tears in her eyes. "My church members already sent me the link. They're asking if it's real. I can't show my face." Daniel slammed his fist against the wall. "Michael and Richard. It has to be them. They leaked this video to paint us all as guilty while they take the fortune." Sarah folded her arms. Or maybe it wasn't them. What if someone else is pulling strings? What if the hooded man wasn't lying? What if there's more behind this than we realize? The room fell silent. The weight of the anonymous text pressed down on them. "You can't bury the truth. I see all of you," Grace whispered. "Then who is watching us? Who filmed that night?" At that moment, Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "The sins of your parents will eat you alive. This is only the beginning." The three of them stared at the screen, the glow of the message reflecting in their frightened eyes. For the first time, Daniel realized this wasn't just about inheritance or betrayal or even survival. This was war with a ghost from the past. And the ghost was winning. The rain was relentless that night. Sheets of water hammered against the roof of the old mansion, its once grand walls now scarred with cracks and ivy. This was the house their parents' society had used decades ago, the place where secrets were born and buried. Daniel, Sarah, Grace, Michael, and Richard stood in the grand hall, lit only by a single chandelier swaying from the storm's wind. The air reeked of dust, mold, and something older, guilt. No one spoke at first. Their footsteps echoed as they circled each other, waiting for someone to begin. It was Sarah who broke the silence. Her voice cracked with frustration. "We've been dragged through hell for days. Anonymous messages, leaked videos, the press tearing us apart. Enough hiding. Tonight, we tell the truth. All of it." Michael sneered. "Truth? Don't act righteous, Sarah. You're just as greedy as the rest of us." Daniel stepped forward. "Stop it. This isn't about greed. Someone is playing us, and we keep falling into their trap." Richard, leaning against a pillar, chuckled darkly. "Finally, someone speaks sense." But Daniel, the trap wasn't set today. It was set decades ago by our parents. Grace frowned. "What are you talking about?" Richard's eyes glimmered in the flickering light. "Do you really think this was just about hidden fortunes and secret shares?" "No, it was about something darker." Michael shook his head. "More riddles, Richard? Spit it out." Before he could answer, Sarah snapped. "Don't you see? The video, the texts, they're not about money. They're about punishment for what our parents did." Daniel looked at Richard. "Tell us, what did they do?" Richard inhaled sharply, then finally spoke, his words like poison. "They killed a man, that hooded one's father. He had threatened to expose the society, to reveal the blood deals and bribes. They silenced him and swore never to speak of it again. But secrets don't stay buried forever. We're not just fighting for fortune. We're paying for their sin." The room froze. Grace staggered back, her hand clutching her chest. "Murder? Our parents' murderers?" Michael slammed his fist on the table. "You expect us to believe this? Convenient story, Richard, when you're the one who always twists things for your gain." Richard smirked. "Believe what you want, but the truth doesn't care if you believe it or not." Tension flared like fire. Michael lunged across the table, shoving Richard. The chandelier above swung wildly, scattering shadows like demons across the walls. "Enough games!" Michael shouted. "If you know so much, maybe you're the one pulling the strings." Richard shoved him back. "Careful, boy. You don't know who you're dealing with." Suddenly Grace screamed. Both men turned, but too late. In the chaos, one of the broken wine bottles on the floor had slashed across her arm. Blood streamed down, crimson against her pale dress. "Grace." Daniel ran to her side, pulling off his shirt to wrap her wound. She trembled, tears filling her eyes. Sarah glared at the others. "Look at us. We're turning on each other like animals. And for what? To protect legacies soaked in blood?" But Michael wasn't listening. His chest heaved with rage, his eyes bloodshot. If someone has to die for the truth, then so be it. He lunged again, this time pulling a knife he'd hidden in his jacket. The flash of the blade sent terror through the room. "Michael, stop!" Daniel roared, stepping in front of Grace. But Michael was beyond reason. He charged at Richard, the blade raised high. Richard, surprisingly calm, sidestepped and twisted Michael's wrist. The knife clattered to the floor. The two men grappled, fists flying, crashing against the old furniture, with splintered glass shattered, their grunts echoing like thunder in the storm. Sarah grabbed the knife, her hand shaking. She pointed it between them. "Stop, both of you." But it was too late. In the struggle, Michael shoved Richard into her, and the blade nicked Richard's side. He hissed in pain, glaring at Sarah. "You see," he spat, clutching his bleeding side. "This is what the curse does. It turns us against each other until only the strongest remains." Grace whimpered, her face pale from blood loss. Daniel tightened the cloth around her wound, his eyes full of desperation. "We have to leave. If we stay here, we'll all die." But none of them moved. The mansion itself felt alive, its walls watching, its halls whispering the sins of the past. Finally, Richard raised his bloodied hand and spoke with chilling calm. "It wasn't about money. It was about murder. Our parents' hands are stained. And now, so are ours." The railway station was silent. Midnight again. Daniel and Sarah walked side by side, their clothes torn, their bodies bruised. Grace had been taken to a hospital, but her fate remained uncertain. Michael and Richard, they hadn't walked out of that mansion alive. The rain had stopped, but the ground was slick, reflecting the pale moonlight. The station loomed before them like a tombstone from another era. Sarah's voice broke the silence. "We're the last ones left, Daniel. Do you ever wonder why us?" Daniel's eyes were fixed ahead. "Because we were strong enough, or foolish enough. Either way, it led us here." They entered the station, the same place where it had all begun. The air smelled of rust and forgotten time. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing in the hollow hall. A hooded figure stepped out of the shadows, taller, broader than the first man. His presence chilled the room. Sarah whispered, trembling, "Not again." The man pulled back his hood. Daniel froze. His mouth went dry. "Uncle Henry?" Sarah gasped. "Your uncle?" Henry's face was cold, his eyes sharp as knives. He smiled faintly. "You finally made it. I was beginning to wonder if you'd survive." Daniel's voice shook. It was you? The messages, the video, all of it." Henry nodded slowly. "Yes, every step, every shadow you felt breathing down your neck, it was me." Sarah's voice cracked with anger. "Why? Why torment us?" Henry stepped closer, his boots echoing. "Because the society needed a new leader, one who could bear both the fortune and the curse. I needed to know which of you had the strength to endure betrayal, blood, and fear. The weak are gone, the strong remain." Daniel's fists clenched. "So you killed the hooded man that night." Henry's expression hardened. He was a loose end. He knew too much, and he wasn't worthy of a legacy. "But you were always destined for this, Daniel. I only had to strip away the others to prove it." Daniel shook his head, rage boiling. "You destroyed lives. Grace is fighting for hers. Michael, Richard, they're dead. You call this destiny? I call it madness." Henry's voice thundered. "Madness? No. Power. Do you think your father built empires by being kind? Do you think Sarah's father kept his position by telling the truth? No. They made sacrifices. And now, so will you." Sarah stepped forward, defiance burning in her eyes. "We're not like them. We won't continue their blood-stained legacy." Henry smirked. "You don't get to choose. You already have. Every secret you kept, every lie you told, every drop of blood spilled, you've inherited it." Daniel's chest rose and fell with fury. He glanced at Sarah, her eyes filled with the same fire as his. For the first time, he understood this was never about their parents. It was about them. He took a step forward, his voice low but steady. The secret meeting was never about them. It was always about us. Henry's smile faded. In his silence, Daniel knew he had struck the truth. The station grew quiet again, the night air heavy with unspoken battles.